Hey guys, welcome. This is a 2014 layout tour, and this is the entrance to the train room. For those of you guys who don't know, I do a layout tour every year just to show you some progress on the layout, and also to show all my new subscribers the general layout of our model railroad. So, coming into the train room, we have the swing bridge here, and this opens and closes. As you can see here, it locks into place. It's held tight with this locking mechanism here. And then we also have these switches here that when this bar presses up against the switches here, it allows the power to flow to the tracks. So when the doors open, the power is cut from here to the crossovers over there, and what that does is prevents trains from tumbling off the edge of the layout here when the bridge is open. So now that we're in the layout, this is our modern HO scale Norfolk Southern layout. And when I say our, what I mean is my dad and I. This is a project and hobby that we share together. So as I just mentioned, we model Norfolk Southern, and we try to stay up with the modern stuff. That's mostly what we model here. It's a double deck layout. As you can see, we have an upper level and a lower level, and how the general setup is constructed is that we have a climb, which I'll show you in just a minute, which connects the two, and we chose to do that as opposed to a helix, just for some interesting operations and a little bit more realism. So anyways, we use all Pico switches and code 100 track. We use a Digitrax DCC operating system. So here you can see our Super Chief and our booster down here. Then we also have the layout divided into 4 sections. One neat thing about this is that we have our amp meter here to show you how many amps and volts we're drawing. And we can also have a short in one section of the layout, and when that won't affect the other 3 sections. So that's one of the reasons we did that. And then again, this entire thing slides out here for easy access and operation. Over on the side of the box here, we have all of our DCC signaling electronics, and it's a little dark under here. But the main brain of the signaling system, which I'll show you guys here in just a few seconds, is this computer right here. We operate a system called CATS, which runs via JMRI, and I have a signaling video which I'll tell you all about that if you guys want to check that out. But anyways, also here's our workbench. This folds up. It's not folded up too often, but these lamps swing down and this swings up, and we can tuck the chairs in, and during an operating session we can have a lot more room over here. So that's one thing that's neat about that. And we'll go and start our tour of the layout over here at the engine shop. This is what I've done in the past, and it's a great place to start here. So how the layout is set up is we have 2 main lines which go around the entire lower level and form a loop. So starting here, we have the two lower level main lines which come out of the yard. And there's no grade here anywhere on the lower level. They come through a more suburban part of town here. And they come over here. Once we cross the bridge, this is going to be our coal mine scene. This is an operating coal loader, which will actually be able to load coal. If you guys want to see a video of that, I'll post a link to that in the description. But this actually raises and lowers, and we can load coal and real coal loads into our trains. And going across the peninsula here, we go through a small tunnel, and that comes out on the other side. And here's the opposite side of that tunnel. This is a location on the layout known as Murphy Junction. Here you can take 2 routes. One is the route through that tunnel back in the direction we just took a look at. The second is a route that goes to the staging yard and branches off the main line here. That goes underneath all the bench work here. Comes out right here. Here we have a switch which leads to the reversing loop lead, which is the front, and the back leads to the other end of the reversing loop, and also to the staging yard lead. This is the staging yard lead right here. And if you take a look under here, you can see we have about a 6-track staging yard which can hold about 50 or 60 cars depending on the type of car. So that's a great area to store some cars. And then that reversing loop track runs all the way around the bottom of the layout here, and eventually we may have plans to do some stuff down here, but it's a pretty small scene and there's not a whole lot we can do with it. Alright, so back here at Murphy Junction, I'm going to go ahead and follow the main lines again eastbound. And you may notice that a lot of the names and locations on the layout are actually locations of real railroad points on the prototype railroad. And again, this is a freelance layout. We don't model any specific aspect of the railroad, but it is loosely based on the Norfolk Southern rail lines in western North Carolina. So you'll see a lot of very similar scenery, a lot of familiar names, but again, we don't specifically model it. We just took the names, and it is a freelance layout, but there's a lot of input and inspiration in the layout from the real mountains and railroads that we see. So anyways, we're over here at Control Point Russell. Here we have some more signals. Eventually there's going to be a cantilever signal bridge here. These are just temporary. But we have double crossovers, and here we have our yard lead. And again, the two main lines stay on the outside of the yard here. For the layout, we have a minimum radius of 36 inches and a maximum grade of 2.6%, which is the continuous ruling grade from the lead here to the climb, and also and it finishes up at Ridgecrest here. So anyways, here's the engine shop and the yard. It's a 9-track yard, and we also have a 5-track engine shop here, which can hold about 30 or so engines. And we're back to where we started. This is where we originally started our tour here, going left on the main lines, and this is where they end up back over here with the yard lead coming into this end of the control point, and the climb branching off of the eastbound end of the control point here. Alright, so over here at the same control point, which I was just showing you guys, as you can see, we have a clear signal for a train lined on the outside main. And how we have the signaling set up here in the layout is that the lower level and the staging yard is completely controlled with CTC, and that is set up for CTC operation, so it's controlled with a dispatcher, and he throws all the switches and lines all the signals on the layout. For the climb starting right here all the way to the upper level and the entire upper level itself, those are all controlled with ABS signals, or automatic block signals, and during an operating session, train movements are controlled with track authority forms given by the dispatcher. So anyways, here's the control point we were just looking at. Here's where the 2.6% grade starts. It continues all the way up here. Here we have our first set of signals. And here in the layout, this is known as the S line, which branches off of the main lines there. Here it goes behind our signaling control computer. And on the other side of that, there's actually a snow scene. I'll show you that once we get over there. So after going into a tunnel there at the snow scene, the main line again comes out of a tunnel here after going through some bench work and behind the workbench there. And this is where it enters kind of the peninsula, which is the centerpiece of the room here. And one neat thing about this is when you have a long train, it can stretch all the way around and actually loop over itself here. And I think the length of train is about 40 cars when you do it. A lot of times with heavy trains going up this hill, we need pusher engines, which adds to the realism of operations here on the layout. And again, you actually need the pusher engines because the train won't make it up the hill without it. So typically we run 3 on the front and 2 on the back. Up here we have a small industry. It's still undecided what it's going to be for sure. Right now we just kind of use it as a little lumber pickup and drop off area here. And again, those signals down there are known as the Coleman signals. Here, this is going to be a nice rock cutout here. Here again on the climb we have a cement plant, which takes sand and loads cement cars. And that's one of the few structures remaining from our first layout. And here's where we enter the upper level, right here. So here's the snow scene. As I mentioned, the track goes into the benchwork and then comes out through this little snow scene here on the opposite side of the peninsula. That noise you hear is the fan there for the computer system. But anyways, it comes out of a little tunnel here, goes across a road, and it's just a short 2 or 3 foot scene. It's really neat and unique. It's almost like a little picture frame there, and it's completely decorated for winter weather with snow over everything, icicles on the trees, a little frozen pond back there, and all sorts of stuff. And if you even look closely, you can see some deer back up in the woods there. So anyways, it's a really unique scene on the layout. We actually If you take a look at the January 2012 issue of Model Railroader, you see a photo of this scene in there. Alright, so up here what we're looking at is the top of the climb here. This is where the grade stops, and this is where we enter the upper level. And just like the lower level, the upper level is a continuous loop, so usually when I'm running by myself I can just let the train run, and it can run on a loop there, and I don't have to worry about throwing switches or anything like that. During an operating session, however, it operates a little different. We run the layout more of a point-to-point, and there's a large paper plant here at the upper level, which serves more as a terminating point for a lot of trains going up the main line. Here's the town of Grovestone. You can see I have operating signals here at the layout, or in the town, excuse me. And coming over here we have the West Grovestone signals. And this is again where the grade stops, and we have a passing siding here, the Grovestone passing siding. And the background track is the main line, and the track in the foreground with the train on it is the siding. And again, the lower level is a lot more industrial, while the upper level is a lot more mountainous with hilly terrain. Here at the east end of Grovestone is where the siding ends. This siding can hold about 30 to 35 cars depending on how many engines you have. And here we head into some mountains. Again, this is where the grade picks up here at the east end of Grovestone, and it's 2.6% grade up to Ridgecrest, which is just right up here. But anyways, eventually this entire upper level will be covered in trees just like this. So we go through a little tunnel right here. There's a nice little cabin up there on top in the woods. And we come out of the tunnel here over a river, and this is where the grade crests, right here in the tunnel. And we head back down grade into the town of Old Fort here. Here we have our Old Fort signals. And these are green in both directions because they're ABS signals. We have our station here in Old Fort, and the track goes behind some buildings there and through Main Street. And after going through the town, we come into the paper plant here. This is kind of the main industry on the upper level and serves as a terminating point for a lot of trains during an operating session. It takes wood chip trains, coal trains, and then general merchandise trains, which take box cars, grain cars, and tank cars as well. So anyways, here's the wood chip unloading facility over here. We still have to put the backdrop set behind the town here, and there's a lot of work to be done, but we'll get there with time. So in the front here is the coal track. This track holds coal cars here for the coal unloading spur right here, which will eventually have a rotary dumper. Over here is the track that takes the hopper cars as well as the tank cars. And here in the middle is the track where we load the box cars, which would be loaded with the completed paper products to be shipped out. We have a 2-track yard here with a runaround. This empty track here in the middle is the main line, and this track on the outside here next to the edge is again what we store coal cars on. So over here the tracks come together, and that's back to where the climb enters the upper level. So during an operating session, this would kind of serve as the end of a scene here, and trains come up to the paper plant and then run back down to Asheville. So anyways, one last neat thing about this layout, as I mentioned before, we're going to have an operating coal loadout here. As you can see, we position the rotary dumper directly above the coal loadout here. So our rotary dumper will dump the coal into a large storage bin in here. From there we're going to have a little chute coming down into here, and if you look, we have a small hopper in here as well, which will load the coal cars. So anyways guys, that is our modern HO scale Norfolk Southern layout. And I think that about wraps up this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you and help you out. So once again guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.